Peace and love, family. Welcome to another Read Book Club discussion. We are reading, family. We are reading Birth of a White Nation by Dr. Jacqueline Battalora. Hold your book up, brother. Everett, show them what we're reading. Yes, yes, yes. Birth of a White Nation, The Invention of White People and Its Relevance Today, again by Dr. Jacqueline Battalora. I am your sister, dr.maat, and I'm here with my brother, Everett Winchester. Everett Winchester, please go ahead and introduce yourself to the people.
Peace and blessings, brother Everett, Division Secretary of the Baltimore UNIA and host of the Real Truth and Power podcast and All Black Trivia Game Show.
Yes, and brother, tell them about your Juneteenth event that's coming up in Baltimore. I'm definitely going to be in the building, but tell the family about that, brother.
Oh, thank you for the plug, Dr. Maat. We have a Juneteenth event. It's going to be on the east side of Baltimore City. Check us out on Facebook, UNIA Barker Clark. We're going to have African drummers and dancers. It's going to be all black vendors selling candles, from food to whatever you can think of. So we really want to push this event to show our loyalty to the community and also to promote Black entrepreneurship and Black economics.
Absolutely, brother. And, I applaud the work you're doing. And like I said, my family and I will definitely be there to support you on Juneteenth. This is our third year in my family celebrating Juneteenth. I was kind of, how like within the clan, you celebrate it in your own home, but we're now as a family coming together as a tribe and celebrating more of our holidays. So we're celebrating Kwanzaa, Juneteenth, and and Memorial Day, and more of the holidays that we created. And yes, family, I said Memorial Day. Memorial Day was created by Black folks in Charleston, South Carolina. So Memorial Day is our holiday. We were the first people. They try to give it to I think it was called the Daughters of the Union or something, some white organization. They try to say that they were responsible for creating Memorial Day, but we were the ones who did it right there in Charleston, South Carolina. In fact, the Times Magazine wrote a wonderful article, and I read it every Memorial Day weekend, and I'll be reading it tomorrow. So family, join me back here tomorrow as I go over a little bit of history of Memorial Day. And I'm also going to be talking about Tulsa because this is the centennial of the Tulsa massacre. Some people call it a race riot or riot. It was a massacre. That's what happened. And I know that a lot of our organizations are out there this weekend. I've been looking at a lot of posts, a lot of videos and pictures. A lot of us are out there, rallying and holding, speeches and things of that nature. And that's all well and good, family. And I appreciate and applaud that. But we need to start building. I'm tired of the talking, as Dr. Takai Kilimanjaro would say, Black folks talk too much. And so these rallies, like I said, let's remember what happened. Don't get me wrong. Let's remember what happened. Let's show up. Let's talk about what we're going to do, but not only talk about it. Let's walk the walk, let's walk the talk, and so now we need to really be building. So let's look at Tulsa. Let's remember what happened, and let's use that as a model, not even as a model, but as a motivation, as motivation to say, look at what we once had. Let's get that and more again, and let's start building. That's what we need to do. Black folks get too much. We built Tulsa. Okay, well, what are we building now? That looks like Tulsa or better. We had our own Black Wall Street. Yeah, that's great. As Dr. Amos Wilson would say, that's the feel-good history, right? That we have the feel-good history. And Dr. Amos Wilson said, we got to get out of this feel-good history. Oh, we were the kings and queens. What are we doing now? And, what are we doing? And so anyway, family, so I'll be here tomorrow going over, the history of Memorial Day and talking about Tulsa, Oklahoma. So tonight, family, we're here to talk about Chapter 5 of Birth of a White Nation. And we're going to also talk about the they call it the afterword, of Birth of a White Nation. So, Brother Everett, I'm going to hand it over to you, brother. Do you want to start it off, Chapter 5?
Yeah, I could start it off. When she first goes into Chapter 5, seeing white and naming injustice, it was something as she starts to go through, she always goes back to the beginning chapters. So
yes,
I like that. I like she does that. It helps me out forward, talking about how, you know, whiteness is a creation type of thing. And then she breaks it down and goes into what she wants to talk about in this next chapter. This one was a tough chapter for me, Dr. Maat, because it gets a little bit into the personalism of how she's breaking down. And I'm trying to think of the phrase she used, but she was breaking down the phrase of people, for example, being critical of someone that has people killing dogs. I'm using I can't remember her example, but if you had people fighting, if you were a dog fighter, you had people fighting dogs, of how people would look and say that was inhumane. But then she puts the light on how white people lynch black people and things of that nature. So she really goes into it in the chapter. But what really just strikes me is how she always goes back to the Bacon's Rebellion, asserting white people, talking about the privilege by virtue and things of that nature. So I didn't want to go too deep. I wanted you to elaborate on it, because the lynching part, before we get into that, yeah, that just really is pretty much the powerful part of it for me. But I wanted to get your take on that before we got to that part.
Yeah. So like you said, and I agree 100% with you. She did a wonderful job. Like in her chapter, she always recaps previous chapters. And for me, I think that's good because it helps the information to stick, right?
Yes.
When she reiterates what she talked about in the previous chapters. So in the previous chapter, she's talking about whiteness, and she's driving home, family, that whiteness, the invention of white people, is a creation. She was saying there's no biological basis for white people. It was made up, and it was a label that was made up in order to serve the interests of white capitalists, wealth capitalists. I'm sorry, wealthiest capitalists. That's what she said. So she says, from the moment that white people were invented, the category has been integrally tied with the control of women and non-white men in the interest of the wealthiest capitalists. She says, while white people are clearly a fiction, the organization of society and relationships that the fiction structured are very real and have resulted in consequences that have provided white people material and symbolic resources throughout U.S. history. I remember, Brother Winchester, and forgive my passion, I was having a conversation with my mother, and I said, Ma, do you realize how, when you think of our ancestors, how their lives were impacted because of being classified as non-white? Like, I'm sitting here thinking about my grandmother right now, and peace be upon her soul. She had a 6th grade education. I think she dropped out of school when she was in the 12th grade not 12th grade, when she was 12 years old. She dropped out of school because she had to go work on the tobacco fields to make money. And when she got older, she ended up migrating to Baltimore, and she used to clean houses for white folks, my mother had shared with me. And then after that, she finally landed a job at Shepherd Pratt Hospital in Baltimore, working in the laundry department. But that's not just my grandmother's story. That's the story of a lot of us who are the descendants of our ancestors who were enslaved here in America. Because of the structure, because of this system, my grandmother couldn't finish school. She couldn't get a high school diploma or college degree and land a great job to take care of her 7 children. She could not do that. And this was because of a system that was created, a system that said that you're not valuable. Your life is invaluable. You're inferior to me. So that impacted her life, right? Which impacted my mother's life, which impacted my life, And so when I read those first couple of lines, I said, she's absolutely right. Look at how the idea of whiteness and, being declared white and then being declared non-white, how that has impacted generations, in terms of our our economic, potential, our economic value, even just our psychological value, right? Just look at how that has impacted us. She moves on to talk about how it has a lasting impact. And she said, not the least of which is the persistence of the belief that white people constitute a unique group of humanity, a race. And so she's saying that all of this stuff is made up. The label white, the idea of race, how all of this stuff really is made up, And so I think that she did a wonderful job summarizing summarizing what she's talked about so far. And then she moves into awareness, right? I'm looking at page 91, Brother Everett, where she talks about awareness. Why do I need to be aware of this history of the invention of whiteness? Okay. And so she says that, being aware of the history of the invention of white people is important because the awareness helps to contest the commonly held belief that whites are a distinct group of humanity united by biology or genetics. She said this alone is powerful because it directs one to different questions and actions. So, for example, it says when patterns arise that are linked to people grouped as white or not white, such as that of white people having higher rates of upward mobility. She said the awareness moves us away from racial or essentialist explanations. For example, that white people are more successful because they're more intelligent, and begs the question, well, what are the social forces, right? Or what historical practices might help explain the pattern for higher levels of financial success among people labeled white in past and today? So she says it will shift your thinking when you think of the issues that we have. You won't be pointing to races, you'll be pointing to the social structure that is creating these conditions.
Yes.
Brother Everett, do you want to jump in, sir?
No, I wanted to just keep flowing. You were flowing, Dr. Maat, because right after that, when she talks, I was going to go into that, right? When she talks about hard work and the American dream. So
come on, let's talk about it. Oh, you're breaking up. You're breaking up, brother. Hold on, brother Everett. You're breaking up a little bit, brother. You when you were talking before, you were breaking up, but now you're good. So go ahead. I see you now. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I saw something click off, but hard work and American dream, because we go into it thinking if, we work real hard, do all the right things, that's the American dream, we'll be successful, but that's not totally true. And she's saying that creation of whiteness gives them the upper hand. So while we're looking at it as we're trying to do the right things, quote unquote, the American dream style right thing of getting a job and getting a government job and doing all of these things, it doesn't really work out for Black people as it would for white people. There is an inequality there because of that creation of whiteness. Even though we know throughout the book she's saying it's created, it's a myth to a certain degree, and all of the stereotypes and everything, we still have to deal with that baggage because we're on a lower totem pole of it. So I liked how she breaks that down, like hard work and the American dream isn't true.
Yeah, it's true. Like you said, it's a myth, and
right.
And she said that it's harmful, and I love in the first paragraph when she said how success is generally defined. We've actually allowed them to define what success is, right? And she said that success in America is defined as having a spouse, 2 children, a dog, owning a car, or 2 in a home with a white picket fence, and having a financial nest for eventual retirement, right? And so, they've even defined what success looks like. And so that's why Kujichagulia is very important. We really need to become a self-determining people. What does success look like for us? Not for them, but for us. What do we feel like is successful? What we do is we've allowed white folks to define everything for us: beauty, success, healthy relationships, healthy bodies. We've allowed them to define anything, even daggone success. So that's one thing that stuck out to me when she said, success is generally defined as, and I said, well, who's defining it? It was white folks who defined it. It was white folks who pitched us the American dream and said, this is what you need to have. But they never, ever even the playing field for us. So the playing field is uneven, but yet they're saying this is what you need to aspire to. And then when you can't achieve the American dream, something is wrong with you. You didn't work hard enough. Yes. When they don't talk about the structure or the system that was put in place so that you can achieve that American dream. And she talks about that. And so she said that's where this ideology is harmful, because when you don't accomplish it, when you don't accomplish the American dream, now it becomes your fault. And she says the message is that any failure to accomplish this dream is a result of personal failure. Now, brother, you know, the first time I read that was in Blueprint for Black Power. Matter of fact, I highlighted it, and I had, this is exactly what Dr. Amos Wilson said. Dr. Amos Wilson said they set up this structure, and, you know, they set up this system, and the system is rigged, you know, from the beginning. This system is rigged. And so when you don't make it out and something happens, oh, it's your fault. It's your fault. You know, when they don't tell you that the deck or the cards are stacked against you from the beginning.
Exactly.
Go ahead, brother.
Exactly. It also puts in that myth that we are lazy. You know, you think about it, you know, we kind of come down on our own people because we're saying, man, we don't work hard enough. We're lazy. See what the white man's doing and see how they have it and see how they're living. But when you take a step back, especially after reading this powerful book, you realize, like you said, that the deck is stacked against us. So we got to do extra. We can't just work hard. We got to work hard plus some to just get on a level playing field and to overcome the stereotypes. So it's a big awakening when you start thinking about how we treat each other and look at each other. You know, we can't look at each other as they're looking at us, thinking we're lazy. We got to understand he says it in the book, we have to start determining what success is for our culture, for our people.
Yeah, success for me is not, you know, a lot of Black folks think that success is making it in this system. You know, I got a house, I made 6 figures. Success to me, the way I would define it, is sovereignty. If we don't have sovereignty, we're not successful. That is my opinion. So someone might say, well, Dr. Maat, you have a PhD, you know, you do have a home, you're working, you have you're successful. Not to me, brother. I'm not successful until we are all liberated, until we achieve sovereignty, full and complete freedom. That is when we're successful. I don't look at Jay-Z and Kanye West and Tyler Perry and them as success stories. That's not success. Making it in this system is not successful to me. Now, dismantling this system is successful. Right. Dismantling this system and creating a system of our own, a culture of our own, a nation of our own. To me, that is success. But anyway, brother. But anyway, I love how, and before I move on to the end of page 93, I have a note right here where she talks about how it says right here that inequality, and Dr. Amos Wilson talked. I wonder, I'm telling you, when I was reading this chapter, I said, I wonder if Dr. Battalora was reading Blueprint for Black Power, because Dr. Amos Wilson talks about the culture of inequality in America. He said it's a culture of inequality. And she says that the inequality has been foundational as a matter of law in the U.S. To be more precise, the presumed superiority of white people was institutionalized within law and policy from the very founding of the country and has awarded whites unearned advantages. So when Kamala and that black senator, I forgot his name, made the comment that America isn't racist, I said, oh my goodness, are these people reading? Do they know history? Have they examined the laws of this land? Have they examined policy? Because if they did, they would know that America is founded on racism. So when she said that, brother, I was very appalled. And I was also offended because I said, she really think we stupid. Well, go ahead, brother Everett.
I was shocked she said that, because I would think that even in her position, she would say things are getting better and I've overcome so much racism. For her to not even acknowledge the things that she had to overcome, I'm like, wow. But you know, that's just how I don't know if it's a political thing or if she's just not understanding the heartaches and struggles of our culture. It's confusing and disappointing. It's really frustrating.
It's frustrating at all. And so Dr. Jacqueline Battalora talks about the unequal playing field. She talks about the structural advantages that white people have. She says men in particular, you know, she talks about everything that they had, from access to citizenship, higher wages, better jobs, access to advancement, cheaper property, and less competition. She said in every area of society, including access to women in the institution of marriage. So they, again, and she gets into this a little later, but I don't think that the answer is trying to, adapt to this system. The answer is dismantling this system. That's what the answer is. I don't think that we can, and she kind of asked some questions later on in the chapter, like how can you restructure a system that was set up, for a certain group of people to be superior and to have advantages over other groups of people? How can you restructure that? It's you got to get rid of it, and then create another system. And so anyway, I love how she talks about, I'm at the bottom of page 93. She says, having equal opportunity, liberty, and justice for all. She said, those are goals. She says, we're not there yet. We're simply not there yet. She said, and so these should be held as principles. She said to date, but the country has afforded it in different degrees to different groups of people at different times. And so we must strive to offer these principles to everybody. So she's white and she's saying we're not there yet. We don't offer, equal opportunity and liberty and justice for all. Like it sounds good, but we're simply not there yet. We're simply not there yet. Did you want to say something, Brother Everett?
No, just to go on, like you were saying, she goes into how we must take a look at it as a country. We must be honest. We must assess and plan relying upon facts, not fiction. And I think she says, I can think of no greater fiction embedded within the fabric of this country's founding law and policies than the existence of a separate and a distinct group of humanity called the white race.
The white race.
Yeah, she ended that strong. She ended that real strong.
Yeah, she's been throwing daggers the entire time. She's been literally throwing daggers. I'm telling you, the entire time. And I love how she moves into, and we say this all the time. You know how black folks say, well, if I'm black and I say something, you don't listen to me. I guess white folks got to tell you, and you'll listen to white folks. We say that to each other a whole lot. We say that black folks would rather listen to white folks than other black folks. And she mentions that on page 95. She says one result, right? Talking about the white race. She said one result is that experience derived from the point of view of white people is treated today as simply the truth, rather than a partial truth contained by a racial status, among other factors, including gender, class, religion, and abilities. So she's saying that when white people put forth their ideas, people accept those ideas as the universal truth. And she said, however, when other people put forth their ideas, such as black folks, she said that their ideas, are kind of dismissed as, well, that's your perspective because, you're black. And but when white people say something, it's taken in or perceived as it's just truth. And that's so true. White folks get on TV and tell us all kinds of stuff. And we sit there and we believe every word that those white folks say. But then a black person will say something to you and you say, oh, no, that's just that brother or sister, or that's just there. It's kind of, we're dismissive of, when our brothers and sisters come to us with information. But when white folks tell us information, we accept it as the God's honest truth. And she talks about that on page 95. Did you want to jump in on that, brother? Did you want to add to that?
No, I was going to go. I don't know if you were going into it when she was talking about how Thomas Jefferson and then Frederick Douglass. If you want to go into that.
Yeah, go into that, brother. Go into it, brother.
She was pretty much talking about universal truths and perceptions and what being a patriot would be if you heard Thomas Jefferson say something. But when you hear Frederick Douglass say something, maybe white people wouldn't think that as being patriotic because, it's coming from a black slavery mentality of trying to overcome and get on the equal playing field. So I like how she just breaks down the perceptions of patriotism to white people and black people, and how there's a different narrative for each person's way of thinking, if that makes sense.
No, it makes complete sense. It makes complete sense, and she said how I'm on page 96 now, where she says white people get away with advocating for certain things such as policies, legislation, practices, and so forth, as if they're race neutral. She says they're not race neutral at all. You know, so she said, I mean, let's read that again. White people get away with advocating for certain things, such as policies, legislations, practices, and so forth, as if they are race neutral. The truth is, a white person is no more race neutral than a Hispanic, Chinese, Japanese, African American, or any other person. The difference is that the latter are seen as racial beings and white people are not. I mean, golly, I need to put my truth to power. You know, I drop a bomb sometimes on my fire, but that was fire just now. That she's saying that we look, but Dr. Amos Wilson said that in his book, Blueprint for Black Power. These people aren't race neutral. We try to remain, I just want to be neutral. I don't want to think of race. I don't want, but you're not dealing with folks who are race neutral. You're dealing with people who have a race first mentality, and that we should adopt a race first mentality. And so shout out to Baba Imhotep and the Pan-African Liberation Movement for what they're doing. They have a race first rally. They've been doing this for a few years now, where they go out and they hit the streets and they're promoting having a race first mentality. Every other group of people have it. But then with Black folks, we feel, and I think this is the church in us. It's the church in us. When we feel like we can't be race, we can't think race first. We can't think of ourselves first. Well, that's the first law. What's the first law of nature? Self-preservation. What do you mean you can't think race first? Everybody else does. So now you're literally defying the first law of nature, which is self-preservation. There's nothing wrong with preserving yourself. And what I mean by self, family, I'm saying self in the collective sense. Yes. Self, our people. It's nothing wrong with that. Like when I remember a lot of folks got mad with the Chinese government at the way they were treating our brothers and sisters from the continent, people, Black folks who were living over in China. They were treating them bad when COVID hit. They were trying to send them back to their countries and people were having a fit. And you know what I said? I said, you know what? I think it's wrong because these people created a life there, and you know they had to get uprooted, you know, from where they were, and the government was trying to get them out of there. But the Chinese people were also practicing self-preservation. They were saying, get the hell out of here. Go back to wherever you from. They were practicing self-preservation. And guess what, brother? I'm gonna say there's nothing wrong with that.
It's human nature.
It's human nature. Groups of people do it. We need to start doing that. We need to start putting our interests first and put our people first, our agendas first, and stop trying to lock hands with everybody.
That's right.
Dr. John Henry Clarke said, we don't have any friends.
That's right.
We don't have any friends.
That's right. You said you know, that was one of the first messages that I learned when I joined the UNIA, race first. Putting your own movement, putting your own people first, your race, your family. I mean, it's like human nature. People think of it as we're doing something wrong. It could be a little bit of maybe the Christianity that's been pushed into us and stuff like that to change your way of thinking. But you don't see any other culture, any other race not putting themselves first. You know, and that's something that we have to do collectively as a people, or we're always going to be trying to join into something, but not be something of our own.
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. I can't, you know, I couldn't agree with you more, brother. And then she moves into talking about how white supremacy is institutionalized. It is.
Yes.
It is institutionalized. You know, and so she says that, you know, another critical step is for the whiteness within our structures of thought and social organizations to be identified and named. So she's saying that we need to identify these structures, whether it's the political structure, economical structure, social structure, start pointing out the whiteness in them and dismantle them, call it out. And that's what she's talking about here. And so, brother, let's move into the afterword, which is like the last couple of pages of the chapter. Because I know you wanted to talk about this part, which was the lynching.
Right,
and
right.
So,
yeah, that was the tough part.
But let me give you a lead in before you go in. So at the bottom of page 97, she said that, you know, well, her afterword focuses on the question, why would whites want to dismantle whiteness? Because they benefit from it. So you're saying, you're asking white people, you know, that's when Black folks want to lock arms with white folks and say, I want you to help me dismantle the system. So, you know, you got some white folks saying, well, why would we want to dismantle this system, you know, that we benefit from? We have the advantage. Why do we want to even the playing field? So you could become my competitor? Absolutely not.
Exactly.
You know, and so, but she's arguing in this afterword that white people should want to, she said to, hold on, let me get to I don't want to misquote her. She said to get back their humanity. So it seems like she's appealing to me in the afterward. She's appealing to them, their moral consciousness, saying, well, I know you benefit from this system, but at what cost? And the cost is your humanity, And so that's what she's saying here. But I couldn't help but to think about, our African scholars and how our African scholars said that in the African context, we would not consider people who are labeled white as humans because of what they have done. And so that's what she's saying here. She's saying that the things that they have done, when you read the history of white folks and see, that's why these Republicans are working to ban critical race theory being taught in schools, because they don't want this taught in schools. And this is what she's saying. She's saying, look at what you've done to other groups of people. You've been just as humane. She's saying you all are sitting here calling out the Nazis for what they did to the Jews. But look at what you all did to African Americans in your country. What you did was just as dehumanizing as what they did over there. But you're quick to call out them, or you're quick to call out the stuff that you see on the news. Oh, these gang members are killing each other. She said, hold up, you white folks, you need to check yourself. Look at your history and look at what you've done. But go ahead, brother. I know you want to jump in.
No, I was going to say you flown today, Dr. Maat, as usual. But and that's what I think she was mentioning Chicago a little bit about the gang violence and stuff like that. But then she flips it and says how you can say that people are animals and savages killing each other. But then she flips it and says, well, what about what the Nazis did to the Jews? And then she goes into it and says, well, what about the lynchings and things of that nature? So before we look at it, you got to look at everything in its whole totality. And the conditions that people are living in. I think that is very critical. I'm not sure who said this, but I heard of a statement, because I wasn't aware of it, that you think that we're always killing each other. Say it's 85% of the murder rate is black on black crime, but also it's probably 75% white crime. You know what I'm saying? So we have to look at everything in its totality.
I didn't hear that last part. You said there's something crime. You kind of broke up. What did you say, brother?
Okay. No, it was somebody that was educating me on the point that when you start thinking of the murder rate in our community, we thinking black on black crime. But if you look at the statistics, white on white crime is just as high. It's just as high. The percentages are just as high. So when she starts to say, look at things as and the whole revolving totality in a circle, you start to see the white people are pretty much more savages than anybody else on this earth, from what they did to, if you want to count the Germans as Jews, to the lynchings that they did to black people, to the dropping bombs on Hiroshima and all of that. The tragedy they've inflicted on this earth is just is inhumane. And so we have to start looking at each other differently, and when we're dealing with these people, we have to start looking at each other differently.
Absolutely. She calls it defective. I want to go and see what I highlighted. I think she calls it, defective humanity.
Yeah.
She said they suffer from a loss of humanity, having lost any sense of the value of life, value of life, And so she talks about how, that we need to recognize what whiteness is. She's advocating for what she calls white awareness, which is, it says, she's asking white folks here to perform a self-examination, historical awareness, and a cultural critique, within self, right? And she said, and unpack the workings of whiteness. So she's talking about, the increased, awareness of, she calls it increased white awareness.
Yes.
And she's saying that what she wants, or what she hopes, is that it will one day shatter the link between whiteness and superiority. Because they do. White folks have a superiority complex.
Yes.
They absolutely do. And black people operate with what I always, and other educators and psychologists say, we operate with a subconscious inferiority complex. And it happens. I mean, based on the type of education that we receive, the media that we ingest, the images, black folks operating with a subconscious inferiority complex. And that was the birth of Meltrek. That's why my family created the Meltrek program, to let our babies know that, no, our history didn't begin with slavery. that black folks are African people, are the mothers and fathers of humanity, and that we had thriving civilizations, we had royalty, we had kings and queens. We are the pioneers of STEM, the pioneers of spiritual systems, the pioneers of architecture, and anything you think of, all of that stuff, language, writing, all of that came out of Africa. And so that was the purpose of Meltrek, to dismantle the idea of black inferiority, and also to dismantle the idea of white superiority by teaching our children about our history and our culture and our achievements through our lenses. But I thought that this was very powerful how she ends. I'm at the bottom of page 106. Brother Everett, the bottom of page 106. And family, I want you to hear me when I read this to you. She says, and she's talking about herself, but I started thinking about me and the power I have, the power you have, Brother Everett, the power that Brother Akata and Sister Tiffany and Anusha and Brother Jai and Mika, or the power that we have, family. Listen to this. She says, the good news here is that this is the one place, talking about self, I have some control in the world. Me, my interpretations, my perceptions, my compassion, my humanity. And then she goes into, she says, the challenge, of course, is that I am a product of the culture and society within which I have grown up. And that's true for all of us, and live. And this culture and society promotes the supremacy of white people over racial others. Even in the face of such monumental forces, the potential and capacities of a person can be great. Personal transformation is first and foremost. Personal. So she's saying I may not be able to control, the society and this whole system, but she's saying I can control myself. I have the power to control myself. I have the power to change and transform myself, and nobody can take that power away from you, family. And she says that personal transformation is first and foremost. Personal transformation. So shout out to Dr. Naeem Akbar for writing the book, Breaking the Chains of Psychological Slavery. We have to transform ourselves first. So you got people running out here. They want to build this. They want to join this organization. They want to do this. But we need to fix ourselves first. We need to undergo personal transformation first before we can do all of that. So she says, I am not a widget stamped out by a culturally fabricated sheet of metal that produces an identical product with each press of a stamp. She says humans have agency. We have agency. She said, in other words, each person makes choices. Granted, those choices are made within a historical and cultural context that makes it appear as if only a relatively small range of choices are possible. She says, similarly, while my perceptions are shaped by my life experience, as all of us, she said, I am not a prisoner to them. I'm not a prisoner to my perceptions. She says, the fact that I can identify, examine, analyze, and critique them and the life experience that has significantly shaped them renders them changeable. So the perceptions that we operate with, we don't have to be a prisoner to them. We can sit, examine them, critique them, and change them. And she says, I have the power to reject cultural messages that dehumanize and over-evaluation and undervaluation. I'm sorry. She says, I have the power to reject cultural messages that dehumanize by overvaluation and undervaluation. So here she's talking about the power of self.
Yes.
That we all possess. Go ahead, Brother Everett. I see you want to jump in.
No, I wanted to also say that, like she said, I have learned quite a bit about race and whiteness, and this helps me put a check on enactments of white supremacy. But then she says, still, I inflict harm often. So I thought that was very powerful because she's letting you know, I'm aware of this, but I am still white. I still get my benefits, and often I show white supremacy. She said I have to check myself pretty much. And that's something that I think that we have to be aware of. If you have $1 million, you're not just going to give it, and you're walking around with $1 million. You're not aware that you're rich. until, you find out that, oh, wow, I just came up in front of the line and skipped over 4 or 5 people. You may feel bad about that, but you're going to get into the spot early. So she's using, she knows about the white supremacy, but like she said, she inflicts harm often. She's letting us know that she still gets caught up or maybe forgets some of the things that she does to harm people.
Absolutely. And so that to me was personal accountability,
Yep.
Yeah, that was personal. She took personal accountability. She's like, hold up. Like you said, I know I'm white and I still benefit. I still have my white privilege, like you said, and sometimes I got to check myself. So, overall, family, I think that this was a wonderful read. I think it was a wonderful read, family, Birth of a White Nation. If you did not get the book, it's a short read. It's only 108 pages. So to me, that's a short read. But we took our time with this because with the R.E.A.D Book Club, we don't just read books. We study books. We analyze them. We actually study them and we discuss them. And so this was our first book, Birth of a White Nation. If you haven't read it, I do highly recommend this book. And also when you do read it, when you grab it, family, hey, he's showing a shirt, the R.E.A.D Book Club. Hey, but family, when you do read the book, once you get it, if you haven't gotten it, make sure that you go back through the discussions. Brother Everett and I have had some powerful discussions. Brother Sean, he was on the platform a couple of times. He joined us, but we had some powerful discussions, and I try to keep the discussions like under an hour, because I know how folks are, Brother Everett. You click on the video, you see like, oh my goodness, these brothers on here for 3 hours. So I try to keep the videos under an hour so that while folks are either driving somewhere or kicking it at home, you could just say, well, let me pop this on and listen to this. And it doesn't take up much of your time. So please, family, if you haven't read the book, get the book and comb back through these discussions. Okay. Brother Everett, do you have any last words, brother, for the people?
No, just another powerful event, and can't wait for you to decide what book we're going to do next.
I actually have it, brother. Do you want me to announce it? No, I don't want to announce it yet. I'm gonna talk to you about it. I don't want to announce it yet, but it's a book that's it's gonna complement this book right here.
Wow.
So, with this book, we're saying Birth of a White Nation. And again, the invention of white people and its relevance today. But now we're really going to get into how we are impacted how African-American people are impacted by being classified as African-American people.
Awesome.
Did you hear that? So we talked about how, whiteness has impacted them and impacted us, but overall just non-white people. Now we're getting specific. We're going to talk about how it has impacted us specifically. And so it's another book. The book is also a short read. It's only like 150 pages, something like that. And so I'll definitely make sure that that you know what it is, and we'll make the announcement next Sunday. Okay. Cool. Or I'll put it in our group chat on Facebook, and then next Sunday we'll make the announcement.
That sounds great. I'm all in.
Sounds good. Fantastic. All right, family. Thank you so much for tuning in. I see my mother's in the building. Mama Anna, Brother Akata, Brother Sean P. I see you in the building. Sister Tiffany, Sister Mika. I hope I don't pronounce your name. Melessia G. Sister Anusha, that's the #1 moderator on YouTube. Brother Zane, he's always here. He's a faithful one. Miss Diaries, I see you are in the building. New Black World Order, you were in the building. Pure Black, thank you so much for joining. Sister Tamika, she's always in the building. I love that sister too. Nana, I see Nana. Nana's in the building. Nana Asadu's in the building. So thank you so much. And I see Brother Sankofa, Haki Sankofa's in the building. All right, so peace to and Sister Wright, Sister LaDosha Wright, she's in the building. So peace to everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Join back here tomorrow. Brother Sean P., why are you in the building, brother? Don't run yet. Are you available tomorrow to talk about Union, not Union, I say Union Memorial Day, brother? Tell me in the chat if you're available tomorrow. Because the first time we did it last year, I didn't have this equipment, Brother Everett. Okay. I didn't have my microphone. I didn't have any lighting. Well, I did have a mic, but I didn't have it hooked up properly. So the sound is like terrible. And so I just wanted to have a build. I had brought on Brother Sean P. to talk about Memorial Day. We went into the history. So we're going to talk about that. Yeah, we're going to talk about that tomorrow. And Tulsa, the history of Tulsa Oklahoma. So if you want to join us, Brother Everett, let me know tomorrow. Okay. We'll go live. I'm going to coordinate a time with Brother Sean P. He said, yes, he's available. So yeah, Brother Sean P, I'll reach out to you and see what's a good time for you, brother. And we'll just go live for about 45 minutes and just talk about, the Memorial Day holiday, why it was created, who founded it. And then we'll get into Tulsa, Tulsa, Oklahoma, the history of that. And more so, what should we be doing? What should we have learned from the massacre? What should we be doing? And so we're going to get into that tomorrow. All right. Oh, Miss Ladosha, come in. She said, I'm all in, sis. I'll post the link. Okay. So you can join the panel. I think that'll be a nice build. So I want you in there. I love that, sister, as well. All right, family. We out of here. Peace and Black power.